What is up, people? It is me, Monster58, and welcome back to another video review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series Dark of the Moon Decepticon Hatchet. One of the three dreads, and the final of the three dreads that was in Dark of the Moon, especially for those of you who don't remember, it was that highway chase scene when Sentinel had to flee, and then the Decepticons chased him via those three big Chevy Suburbans, and this is one of them. Now, when it comes to the other two dreads, I am very not fortunate enough to have been collecting when the initial two came out, so Crowbar and Crankcase, and so I do not have those, but the reason I ended up really buying this guy was because there is part of my live-action Decepticon movie shelf that has an empty space, and I didn't know what to put there. And I was like, I was at GameStop not too long ago, and I was looking around, and I saw Hatchet on the shelf, and I was like, maybe I can just track down Crowbar and Crankcase, and I'll just put the dreads there. That might be a good thing, because the dreads designs in the movie, I actually really liked how they looked. It's just I'm not the biggest fan of the actual movie itself, but I like their designs, and so I was like, screw it, why not get Hatchet and see what this guy's about? And I'm going to tell you this, I'm a bit disappointed, but getting into the box, you can see some nice artwork there of Hatchet in his Suburban mode. Studio Series Decepticon Hatchet, Studio Series 117, got the Transformers here, got the Generations here, Transformers Dark of the Moon obviously up here, and then you got some nice artwork here of Hatchet on the side. You got some more nice artwork here of Hatchet on the side with the Deluxe class right there, and you do have your obligatory product shots. Now, the actual background is the scene in the movie when essentially Hatchet, and they're all the dreads are chasing the Autobots, and there's one scene where they transform, and when they start chasing after the Autobots by running on foot, Hatchet's the one that's on all fours, and there's the iconic scene when Bumblebee breaks as Hatchet tries to attack him, barely misses, and then you get that scene when Dino jumps up and he hooks onto Hatchet and sort of drags him around the highway and stuff like that. So that's Hatchet. But when it comes to in that background, that's where that scene is from. So just wanted to clear that up. But I think with the box, I think this is a pretty nice box, but I still prefer the new boxes. Obviously, this is older with the, I prefer the new ones with the plastic on it, but this still looks pretty good. And so without further ado, folks, alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, here we have the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Decepticon Hatchet from Dark of the Moon out of the box and in his vehicle mode. And I gotta say, guys, this is the best part about the figure. The vehicle mode actually looks really good, and part of the reason is because it's licensed, and of course, Chevrolet is going to want to approve the details and the shape and everything like that. And so when we're taking a look at this vehicle mode, it looks really good. You see the nice Chevrolet logo here on the front, the nice painted headlights. I wish they were painted a bit better, but overall, still nice. The painted windshield and the windows are very nice. Wheels look good, and they're pinned on as well, so he rolls relatively well. You have the nice light bar up here. I wish this was blue, but what are you going to do, right? But it still looks good. You see the nice more Chevrolet on the back. You see the nice painted taillights as well. His weapon also stores here. That's what this is. And I dropped him, and that is a bit of a shame. Give me one sec. Alright, folks, like I was saying, you can see this weapon stores here, and it essentially becomes sort of like a faux tow hitch, so that looks pretty solid. Overall, when it comes to the bottom, I mean, you can see some robot kibble, but it's not too bad. The only bad part about it is this unsightly gap here in the front wheel wells. It doesn't look all that great, but overall, when it comes to the rest of the vehicle mode, I think the details are there, it looks good, the size is correct, and when I've seen other videos with the other dreads in their vehicle modes, he's the same exact size. And so, although that's really good, that fact of them all being the same exact size class and the same exact vehicle mode also kind of restricts this figure, and we'll talk about that when we get to his robot mode. But overall, when it comes to the vehicle mode, this is the highlight of the actual figure itself. It looks really good, very well done, rolls real well. Just again, the only issue I have is that unsightly gap in the front wheel wells, but overall, still really solid. And so what we're going to do, we're going to do our size comparison. So we're going to set this guy off to the side here. And here he is with the Transformers Legacy United Deluxe Class Infernac Universe Magnus. As you can see, when it comes to the deluxe size, this guy is an average deluxe size. He's a bit longer, like by a hair, but when it comes to the width, obviously Magnus will still take that. But overall, when it comes to the actual size, you can see these guys are about the same size, and so average deluxe size, can't really complain. They are about that size, especially when you look at the scene. The scenes with the dreads in them in Dark of the Moon. Excuse me, sorry, a hiccup there. When you look at those scenes, they are average deluxe size. I think Sideswipe is a little bit smaller than a couple of them, but Sideswipe is on the smaller end anyway, but overall, can't really complain too much about the size. Alrighty, folks, and it's time to get into transformation. And my lord, I'm going to tell you this right now. This is one of the most frustrating transformations I've ever done in recent memory. And the reason being is not because it's complicated or anything. It's actually quite simple. The issue is these panels here. So these panels are actually removable. But as most people did, I glued them on because these essentially will become his arms. And I don't understand why Hasbro just decided to have those removable. I guess the main reason would be because in robot mode, you can remove them for a more cleaner looking robot mode. But if you were going to do that, the way that they did the tabs for this meant it sat in there real loose. You'd think that they would have some sort of snapping mechanism so that these would stay on tight, but no, they're really bad. And the fact that you have to glue them to get any sort of, in my opinion, any sort of enjoyment out of the transformation, or just to not want to throw this figure at a wall and break it into 1,000 pieces like I did, it's a shame, because if you think that an adult has to do it, let alone why have a kid do it, like it just doesn't feel good. But getting into the transformation, the first thing I like to do is you can take these sections and you can sort of wiggle this entire side, and the weapon will fall out on its own because the tabs that put it in aren't really all that good. You can fold these panels down on either side, and then what you're going to want to do is rotate this to the back, actually, and then you're going to want to sort of accordion them up, then rotate them as far as they'll go here, and then you can fold the foot down to compensate like about 90 degrees. So again, you're going to rotate this to the back of the car, you're going to fold this all the way up, and then you're going to fold these down, and these will essentially be his back legs. So getting here, what you're going to want to do next is you're going to want to untab the front here, and then you're going to want to accordion this up, then you're going to want to come here to the back, and if you don't glue this in, I guarantee as soon as you do this, these are going to fall off. So I would recommend you glue them in like I did. So you're going to separate these, you're going to rotate them down just a little bit, and you're going to rotate this up, and then you're going to fold. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and then we're going to raise the height a little bit here as well. What you're going to want to do is you're going to fold this in, and then you're going to fold this back in as well, and then this just kind of sits up here, and then you can accordion this and rotate like that. So for the arms, you can rotate those down, then rotate them to the front, fold the foot down, and then fold that top half, because this is split in half. You're going to fold the top half of the back window up like that. So again, rotate towards the front here, and then you're going to fold the foot down, and then you're going to take this section, and then you're just going to fold it like so. And then you have the little dreads here. You can kind of just flare them out however you wish. Then you just got to really straighten this guy out for the most part. And then what you're going to want to do is fold this and sort of just, this is kind of placed wherever you want. And then what you'll do is you'll take the weapon, and then you have two little tabs here that kind of just sit in this little section right here. So you just kind of do that. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, here we have the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Decepticon Hatchet from Dark of the Moon in his robot mode. And so, guys, when it comes to his robot mode, what I'll tell you this right now is when it comes to the actual details and the paint, it's actually pretty well done. And so taking a look at the head, you can see the head's pretty cool. You can also rotate it like this. We'll go into the articulation later, but you can rotate it like this, which is nice. But you see the nice silver there looks pretty solid. You can see the red for the eyes, and then the jaw opens and closes. It looks really, really solid. And then when we look at the detail on the arms, it actually looks really, really good too. I mean, you see all that nice molded detail. Even here on the legs, it's pretty solid, like overall. And then when you're looking at the actual tail bit weapon, actually has some really nice molded detail across the board. So overall, when you're looking at this guy as like from a detail and paint perspective, this guy actually looks pretty solid. And even when you remove this top and you have this unsightly gap, you can see some nice detail here, you know, in the sides and everything like that. Actually looks pretty solid. But the issue is pretty much everything else. We'll talk about it here, and that's one thing I just knocked off. I'll tell you that that's an issue. So this tail doesn't really sit in there all that well, and so something so simple as just doing this will just knock it out. And that sucks because, again, like, it's already frustrating enough to deal with these arm panels. It's equally doubly as frustrating sometimes to deal with the tail when you're already dealing with these stupid arms. In addition to that, the one thing I'd like to criticize about this is very Ghibli. Now, he's very much a beast mode transformer, right? He has, a beast transformer in the sense that even though his vehicle mode is a car, his robot mode is very much just like a beast, right? And I think more or less they're kind of inspired by lions or big big cats. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think they're more or less inspired by big cats. And so when you're looking at this guy in the movie, he's very imposing, actually. Out of the three, the two, Crowbar and Crankcase, run on their hind legs like people do. Hatchet was the only of the three that ran on all fours. And the thing about Hatchet is when you look at those scenes, he's kind of wide, he's hunkered down, he's a bit chunky, right? But that gives him this imposing, more cat-like appearance compared to Crowbar and Crankcase. And then when you look at this figure, I mean, he's really thin. I mean, when you look at the scene when he tries to attack Bumblebee, I mean, he's big. I know it's zoomed in, but he's big. He feels imposing. Here, he doesn't feel imposing, and arguably, he's kind of anorexic. It's just very, very skinny. And I don't know how well this comes across, but he just feels very tiny. And I wish that they would have found a way to be able to make him just a bit wider, just to give him a more imposing stature, but here it just doesn't feel like that. And that's a bit of a shame, because it's like you'd think that he would have a more imposing stature. Now, like I said earlier, the detail of them wanting to keep all the dreads having the exact same vehicle mode and the size comes into play here, because they have a limited space to work in, and so I understand in a way why he is sort of as skinny and as anorexic as he is, but at the same time, you think that they could have still found a way for them to, for him to be able to just be a bit wider. And I'm not a toy engineer or anything like that. I'm not trying to really knuckle down on the Buffins there at Hasbro and all the designers, because they're all honestly amazing people. It's just I think that here they made a misstep with making him as skinny as he is. I know that they're working within their limitations and the money, but it still feels bad, and this doesn't result in a great robot mode overall. Again, details and paint, they look pretty solid, but everything else just doesn't feel all that good. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do our comparison. So we're going to set Hatchet off to the side here. Alrighty, folks, and here he is with the Transformers Legacy United Deluxe Class Infernac Universe Magnus. As you can see, he's an average deluxe size, but obviously since he's on all fours, there's going to be a height difference. But I still think when it comes to length versus width, I mean, you can see Magnus here is a bit taller, but Hatchet makes up for it in terms of how long he is. So overall, I'm not too mad about that. I think it's a solid size, and when you're thinking about a Crowbar and Crankcase, they'll be about the same size as Magnus here, and so when you have all three of them together, I think they look great. It's just a shame I don't have them. I will track them down, and I might do reviews on them in the future, but for the time being, this is the only one I have, and he will go on my shelf. It's just, man, this guy doesn't feel all that great. Alrighty guys, it's time to get into the articulation, and this is also partly where a lot of the frustration with this figure goes down, is because when you're moving around anything, everything bumps into everything, and everything kind of breaks because everything is so loose, particularly on the arms and on the tail. But the arms can do a full 360, so you can do a full 360 there. You have a rotation here, you have a bend here as well. You can go more than 90, but it doesn't really necessarily make any difference. Head, like I showed you earlier, can rotate like this, and then the jaw can open and close, and the dreads themselves also have a little bit of articulation going back and forth there. For the legs, there's no waist joint, obviously, because he's a beast. You can kind of go a little bit forward and back. You have this rotation, go forward and back here. You have a rotation here at the actual knee part, and then the foot can actually do this. So you don't have any ankle rocker, but I mean, it's a beast for the most part, right? He's essentially a big cat, and so you can get some okay poses out of him. It just, man, if you didn't glue these on, you would be screaming at this figure right now and wanting to throw it at a freaking screen, at the wall, because it's just so frustrating to deal with them. And so, guys, it's time to get into the reverse transformation, which is arguably just as frustrating, if not more frustrating than getting him to his robot mode, if he didn't glue on the back panels on his arms. And so, to start off, close the mouth, fold up these bits, and you're going to want to fold out the top half of the back panels. Make sure you straighten the head out, straighten the arms out as you rotate them, and then sort of just flip them up like this, and you're just going to want them to. And there goes, man, I glued this yesterday, and of course now it's giving me a pain. Man, I did super glue, of course, but you're going to see how frustrating this gets. So you're just going to want to have them like this, and then you're going to want to take this panel, fold it up, fold this up, then fold this up as well, and then sort of accordion this down. And you want to do this first just because it makes life a lot easier. Then you can sort of align everything and just tab it all into place, and there goes the tail. I was going to remove it anyway, but yes, tab this all into place as best you can. Then you come down here, you just remove the tail anyway. Fold this out, and then you're going to want to rotate the legs and straighten them out, rotate them around, and what you're going to see is that there's a peg hold there, and then when you fold this, there's a peg right there, and you're just going to fold it like this, then fold the foot out to where that the side of the car looks like this. Same thing on the other side, so again, rotate this to the side, fold this down to make sure that tabs into place, then rotate this around as well. And then what you're going to want to do here is I like to fold down one of the legs already and just sort of get this in place. So what you'll see here is that there's a little slot right there, and then there is a tab that kind of slides into place right there above the wheel. There, you can see that there. And then you basically just, man, and of course this is going to get, I'm going to glue this after. You're going to want to push this up and sort of slide it in. It's a bit of a pain. And there you go. And you have that in. And then what you can do from here is the weapon has little tabs here on the side. And then you can just basically, there are 2 tabs on the inside of the dreads on either side. And you just sort of rest it in there. Upside down. And of course it, man. There, please stay in there. Please stay in place. Thank you very much. You're going to want to tab those into place like so. And this is also front, man, I hate getting this weapon into place too. It doesn't feel great. Just sort of pinch it like that. And then you can just one little movement and this guy comes apart, man. I hate transforming this thing. That, and then rotate this down like so, and that came apart. And like I said, you're going to want to take this bit and just sort of accordion it and push it in. And then what you can do is sort of push the front of the truck in, because that'll give these tabs more clearance to fold behind this entire bit. So you fold this down, and then this will kind of lock into place like so, and then you fold this up, tab that into place, just kind of squeeze it very carefully. Make sure it's all tabbed into place. And ladies and gentlemen, well, can I get that to tab? I guess that won't tab the best. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, here we have the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Decepticon Hatchet from Dark of the Moon back in his very good-looking Chevy Suburban police truck mode. And so guys, for my final concluding thoughts on the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Hatchet from Dark of the Moon, this guy is painfully average, and he just does not hold up to the standards that we have today. Even if this guy didn't come out, let's say, within like the past few months, I guess, he came out within the past year, and when we're considering all the standards, this guy just does not fulfill them. And so let's get the bad out of the way as I usually do, which is a lot. The transformation going both to robot mode and back to vehicle mode are just a pain. There's no reason, in my opinion, that they should have ever made those panels removable, and if they were so set on making those panels at the back removable, then what they should have done is they should have had some snapping mechanisms so that those would stay in way easier than they do, because the stupid friction pegs that they have now are just absolutely terrible at keeping those panels on his arms in, and it just feels really bad when you're transforming it, because the transformation, like I said, isn't complex, but with those falling off all the time, it doesn't feel good to transform. It just makes you want to throw the Friggier against a wall and smash it into 1,000 pieces. Also, next thing, his robot mode actually doesn't look bad from a paint and detail perspective, as I said. The issue is how skinny he looks. In my opinion, he should be a bit more wider, a teeny bit lower, and just a bit more imposing overall, and you don't really get that when you get this figure, because you look at the movie, you look at this guy, it's like, is this really the same thing? Like, it just doesn't feel all that good when it comes to how skinny he actually is. In addition, the tail just doesn't sit in there very well. Although it's got some nice detail, doesn't sit in there very well, and something very easily could knock it out. And just like the same thing with his arm panels, you can very easily knock those out. And the fact that you have to glue those panels as an adult collector, like, let alone a kid doing that, it just feels real bad that you have to do that extra step if you don't want those panels falling off. That shouldn't be something that a consumer has to do, right? Like, they just shouldn't have to do that. And then transforming him back is just arguably harder, because you're trying to actually, like, squeeze everything together, and lo and behold, you squeeze something just a tad bit too tight, or try to, and everything just explodes and falls apart, and those arm panels fly off, and the tail flies off, and even putting the tail back in its spot that it's supposed supposed to go for storage is really difficult and really annoying. Like, the tabs just don't feel like they snap in all that well, and it just kind of sits there very, like, luckily when you finally squeezed everything in. And then the other thing too is the robot mode itself is kibbly. It's very panely. Sure, it's a deluxe class figure, but man, it just doesn't look all that great when you're looking at all the panels. In addition to that, the articulation is just limited because you're taking essentially a beast mode, robot mode from a car. That's really hard. That's not super easy, and to get that across here just makes the articulation just not feel all that great. Meaning you can get him into some neat poses, but nothing overly dynamic. Just like even the pose that you would want to put him in would be the one obviously where he tries to attack Bumblebee, and it just doesn't look good. The good though, the vehicle mode. Like I said, that's the best part about this guy. The vehicle mode actually looks good, licensed. All the details are there. The only issue with it is that unsightly gap in the front wheel well. And I guess the other good thing, like I said, is the paint and the detail in the actual robot mode. The head sculpt actually looks really good, and it's well painted, and the other details actually look really solid, in addition to the detail on the actual tail. So that looks pretty good. But there's so much just that feels bad about this figure that at the end of the day, I'm going to give this guy a 5. In my opinion, this is the worst figure I've ever reviewed on this channel. It just doesn't feel good. It's not all that great. And would I recommend it? Not unless you're getting a sale for it. I just happened to pick mine up at a local GameStop because I was there and I was like, there's a space on my shelf, like I said, that needs to be filled. Maybe the dreads can go on there, and I decided to get this guy while I was there, and I kind of regret spending the full $25 deluxe class price on it. It just doesn't feel all that worth that much money. You only get it when you're on the sale. But if you would like to actually get this guy, I'll leave links to Big Bad Toy Store, Amazon, as well as maybe Hasbro Pulse if they still have it, so that you guys can pick this guy up on those online retailers if you so wish. And we're real quick thing about Big Bad Toy Store, not to get political or anything like that. I'm just mentioning the actual reality of what's going on right now. There are tariffs, and unfortunately Big Bad Toy Store is one of those retailers that is affected by those. So if you put in a pre-order before May 9th, I got an email about it like a couple of days ago. If you got an email, if you got a pre-order in before May 9th, your price is locked in, but anything placed after May 9th will unfortunately might have some, tariffs on some of those figures and the other collectibles because of what's happening here in the U.S. right now. So if you live in the U.S., just be aware that I'm not saying Big Bad Toy Store isn't a reputable seller. They absolutely are. Easy to contact, easy to communicate with, pretty reasonable all around. Just be aware and look at your financial situation before you decide to buy some more figures on Big Bad Toy Store or any of your other online retailers as well. And so just wanted to make that a note here because that might affect some people. And so I think that's really it. I thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends, and also follow me in the socials. Those will be linked in the description below. And with that, guys, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video review, and I'll catch you on the next one. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.